But BA's earnings season is also here, so keep that in mind. That's also a catalyst. I mean, honestly, as is for just about everything in the S&P. All right, so it looks like, what is this resistance caught at for BA? Looks like right about 218 resistance. So you could see here, breaks, retests, breaks, comes down. What I like though is that it's not rejecting, right? It does break, it just keeps doing a retest afterwards. But again, we're seeing that, well, as I'm calling it, the hanging man of death. But that's on the 1 minute, so that just means that we're going to see a retest here of that 215.
Do you guys know if Late's like options only, like he never has or I never see a date? Is it usually for the same day because he's day trading them?
Yeah, almost all the time he's day trading. If he holds overnight, he updates the options only post, though. He'll let you know.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem.
On his original one in the morning, see how it says right there at 6:48? This is for weekly options day trade. He usually puts that if it's going to be weekly all day, that he puts, if that helps.
Yeah, Lathe is very good about being clear in his posts, so if you're ever unsure because you forgot, just go back into his posts. 9 out of 10 times, your answer's probably in there. Alright, so I'm looking at the options flow for AMB because I'm trying to get an idea here, if we can, of what to expect. But it looks like everybody's pretty neutral up until March. So that doesn't really help much. But you know what? Looking at SPY and QQQ could help.
Good news is risk is no longer King Kong and premium is back up.
Cool. Alright. Yeah, that was weird. I thought we got hacked. It's like, oh god, King Kong, T-Raw found us.
Then I realized that guy probably has to have someone else open his box of cereal for him, so I knew it wasn't him.
Yeah. It's like, what's a hack? What's a computer?
Yeah. His mom still ties his shoes.
So, overwhelmingly bearish. I don't know if you guys remember from yesterday when I was watching this with me. For the fifth, we didn't really have much of anything going on. This was pretty neutral with SPY. There wasn't really much of options activity suggesting bearish or bullish. And it looks like this morning everybody's expecting it to drop, probably because of the Fed meeting. But again, I don't really think the Fed meeting is going to have too much of an effect because I think the info is priced in, so it's just a rehash of last year's info. And then looks like again neutral until we get to the 14th, and that's kind of where we were talking before, where the 14th is looking bearish, but this has been looking bearish for like a month or two now. So I'm more concerned with this than this brand new number here. And then if we go down to the bearish heat map for 14th, so this is saying 487. So what this is telling me is I'm interpreting this as, because of the docs that I read for here that tell me to, this is covered calls, right? Because selling covered calls is also a bearish strategy. You generally do it if you think the price is going down. And this is just looking at premium in general, not whether it's a call, put, bought or sold. So 487, very, very in the money if it was a put. There'd kind of be no point to that, right? When you could just do something like 460 for sure. So this looks like it's a covered call, right? So why would a covered call be 487? Because you're betting that there's no possible way it can hit 487 and that those contracts are going to expire worthless. And on the flip side of that, for the bullish, it looks like 464 calls. Or potentially this could also be 464 puts that were sold at 464 so that they don't get assigned because this person doesn't think they will, or people don't think they will. And let's see how Tesla's updated. Alright, so looks like for the rest of the month, actually almost for the rest of the year, it's pretty neutral, right? But then for this Friday, for whatever reason, everybody's very, very bullish on Tesla. So, it seems like risks calls for this week were probably the right move. Because this is filtered by only people spending $100,000 or more on these options. So it's only the whale players, right? So we're going to take that a little more serious than maybe somebody who just bought one contract and is feeling it out, because that would suggest the amount of dollars of strength, comes from a position of strength, knowing at least a little bit of what may happen.
I'm not trying to get your little sticker to peck out, but did you see that Tesla came down and tested that basically 1140 close to a complete real butterfly effect thing you learned? That's pretty cool.
Right, so that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So you see that, guys? We're talking about symmetry. So I was saying I would want it to come back to this area. Now, based on, I'm going to do a yellow line here because it's not a key level, but it's just the level I care about for the pattern. Based on, it's starting here, there's potential it could drop here, right, to the 1130 area to complete that pattern. But if not, it may bounce and go back up. So Tesla's overall trend, I really don't like the 4 hour here because
guys, I gotta bounce. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
Bye, Peanut. Thanks for joining in.
I'll be back a little bit later.
Peanut.
Bye.
So Tesla's 4 hour, you can see, look at that RSI. There's a double top there, right? That's generally not a good sign. So double top, if you're a newer trader, that means that you've tested, failed, dropped, tested again, failed, drops. Now you rejected twice, so you're rejecting hard, and it drops harder. There's also triple tops, which you can see here. Right, 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess technically a quadruple here, but maybe now it's not as high, and then boom, drop. So along being overbought, this is a double top, and then the MACD also flipped over red, and you can see here it death crossed. So the 4 hour is a little scary, but the options flow is bullish. So let's see, what's the daily look like? A daily looks like we still got room to run. Nothing on the daily suggests that this is going to start dropping. I mean, it's starting to get a little high, but it's got room. And Tesla's weekly I really like, because not only is the RSI curling up, but on the MACD, this MACD line tried to cross through the signal line for a death cross, but it failed, and it bounced back up. So that shows strength for longer term. And then of course we know that Tesla was still in its bull flag breakout here, right? So that's still exciting. And then with bull flag breakouts, if you guys remember when I went over it, if you use your price range tool, you can measure the impact. So we get that measurement from the inside of the flag, put it right from the breakout point. So let's see. Oh, why isn't this telling me the price? Let's change this back to okay. Yeah, so 1345 here. Looks like that would be the target. So based on the breakout, we would be looking for 1345. Now, how long of a time frame? No, not that quick, because it's on the daily chart. It's not an intraday chart. So I probably want to give this time to play out. I mean, Tesla contracts are pricey. So if you have the capital to get a longer dated one, something like end of this month for earnings time is probably a really good idea to do 1350s. It's my take on it, or 1300s. But that's going to be pricier. Or if you want to go really cheap and you don't care if it necessarily goes in the money, but you just want to make some profit, 1500s are pretty good too. But what I want to see is that we're done dropping first, right? Now we're going to bounce. So you can even see here, look at that gap. We've never filled that gap yet. And yesterday we were talking about how these gaps 90% of the time fill, we just don't know when. And like Slee was talking about, it's doing that butterfly, right? So the Fibonacci butterfly. So X, A, B, you should see a C. right? So this should be based on the butterfly tool, the price action we see. And like Lee said, the B rise went exactly where it's supposed to so far. And now we're going to see the C drop. And then from there we should see up to the D. So what I'd want to see is probably that this line holds so that we know that the C is an accurate support, and then we would be able to add there. Again, depending on your capital and your risk tolerance, either 1500s for end of January, and I'm thinking like 128 when I say that, or 13 or 1350s if you can afford that. You want to go a little higher because you have a bigger account. I personally am probably going to do something right in the middle and do like 1400. These numbers on it though are kind of annoying me, so let's. Yeah. All right. So maybe I'll figure that out later. I can't make these little price numbers disappear on the tool. So I'm gonna delete this for now again because I don't like that it's hiding candles from me.
Hey, Burke, can you look up MRK when you have a second?
Yeah. MRK still flying, huh? See, but this is.
I got 80s yesterday and sold it for 100 this morning. I should have held it, but 100% is 100%.
Yeah, I have 82s for the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm actually still thinking about which strike to get to because I want to see what it's going to do. I mean, this is running really hot. I mean, look at these 15-minute candles, guys. It's been, big green dildos running right after another. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. Like 0.5%. Look, there's 0.5% candles, multiple.
Look at the RSI.
Yeah, almost 90. I mean, that's going to have a pullback. So if you're in already, this might be where you scale out a little, take some profit, and then wait for a pullback if you want to get back in and add some more. So big question then we want to know is where can we expect a pullback to, right? I would say probably right here at 77.45. Because before, we were struggling to break this for a while, right? Like for most of December, actually, we were in this channel. Broke out finally, came back in, which sucked, and now we have a definitive break. So now, actually, what I'd want to see is that it does come back to 77, 45, 50 area here, and see that it retests and holds it. If it holds it, then not only is that a great place to add or a great place to enter, but now you have confirmation that
so this is risk reward talking here real quick for those of you that are listening.
79.83.
We're listening to one of our contributors right now, Burke Bork.
And guys, if any of this doesn't make sense at any point, please feel free to speak up. I am also trying to keep an eye on chat if you guys are writing messages, but I'm also going a million miles an hour through these charts too, so I may not see it. If I don't, feel free to just draw my attention to it. I'm not ignoring.
For those of you that aren't able or
So
don't
just
have
to-
the
just to
time
clarify,
necessarily
so
to
the,
join in
resistance that you see is 77.45.
during market hours, I wanted to make this video just to give you guys an opportunity to see what we're doing.
Right here,
And
at about
always remember that
79.85
if for some
is the
reason
next
you
level of key
can't join
resistance,
in,
that's also a Fibonacci
you can
level.
always
But
throw in an earbud
what I want
and
to
just
see first
listen,
is that it comes back down to retest the
or ask a
the
question
resistance that it
in
just
our
broke
general
was at
chat.
77.45-ish, and that's what it wasn't able to. So if you're looking at my chart, you see how many times we stayed in that channel. Every time we tried to break, it came back. We just couldn't do it. And this is the first day here. We did it. We broke out of it. So we've still never retested this. So we don't know that this is a real breakout and that it's not going to come back down, right? Because this broke out of this channel, this line, we got excited. What happened on retest? Came back in. So you don't necessarily know for sure until you see the retest. Does that make sense?
77.45. Yep, you got it.
Yep. And it may still go up to the 79.89 and reject before it comes back down to test that though. So I would keep an eye on it if you're in now to see what it's going to do when it approaches that area. I mean, if it breaks it because it's just having a hot day, fine. By all means, maybe scale out, maybe just stay in and go. But keep an eye on it because I'm expecting a rejection somewhat soon just for that retest.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No problem. Let's see, is Roku still free falling to death? Yep. Stair stepping down. Brutal. And let's look at SPY.
Apparently, Roku has a 136 price target.
Yeah, which was a downgrade, and that's why it dropped so heavily.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, anyone now newly joining us that wasn't here for the earlier analysis, right? Yesterday we had talked about how these two patterns in SPY are almost the same, almost identical. It's just the second one has a few more candles at the start, but you could see it following the same pattern of a 1-2 test, breakout, the channel, 1-2, breakout, came back down, some sideways action, right? More so here than here, and then a drop and some more sideways action. Now, since this has been consolidating longer than this one has, I would expect that drop to be pretty big, right? And we're already trading at the top of this trend channel. So the fact that we can't really break this, and we've been trying and trying, means either the Fed is going to turn on the printer and algos and say, you know, fuck your logic and your TA, and we're going to go to 480 to possibly 500 and then crash pretty hard, or based on the constant rejections here, because even across the trend line, see, look at that, we constantly rejected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It keeps rejecting. It wants to break it because SPY overall is a bullish equity, right? SPY is meant to keep going up over time, but for the short term here, it's not able to. So that's telling me that it may be time for it to drop back down to the bottom of the channel, which you can see here, right? It always somehow finds its way back here. And I know the lines aren't exactly touching on the bottoms. That's because we're on the hourly. This is drawn on the daily. But yeah. So if we move it so that's more accurate on the hourly. All right. Okay. So based on this, I would expect to see this retested. So previously I was saying 453, right? But this is a slope. It's not a fixed point. So where this trend line is also going to vary over time. Now, obviously the slope keeps going up. So we're not at 453 anymore, right? 453 was here if it dropped around here when I thought it would. Now we're going up. So at this point, let's say it suddenly dropped today, this is 455. You know, and then the further up we go. So what I could see happening is SPY could potentially just keep consolidating so that the drop isn't as big as we think. So that it drops maybe to about here at like 462, right? So 453, that's not a fixed point, not one of these horizontal lines. That's just part of the sloping trend line that I was calling for. So that's going to go up day by day by day. Every day it doesn't drop, the prediction is higher, just based on where this line is. And you can see the more consolidates though, the less room for a drop it has. And honestly, that's why I got 465 puts, because, you know, well, that's partial greed obviously, because if it hit 453 back then, that's a great payout. 465 also leaves you room, so as this slopes up, you know, not only are you buying yourself time with further out dates, you're buying yourself time by having a higher strike. Whoever that is, can you pretty please
شوف ستوب لوس هنا شارين هنا ستوب لوس في الاحمر هنا والاخضر.
Okay. Alright, so for 65, you know, not only does that buy me more time by doing it for mid-month, but it also buys me time to account for the slope up. And honestly, I don't even need 465 for it to be profitable. So if we're wrong because it consolidates so long that it only drops to the trend line here, and we only get like 470, 471, well, it's still a lot lower than where we are, aren't we? So puts would still be profitable depending on when you bought them. And you know, that's not to say if you have calls right now that you're screwed. That's not what I like to go up. I'm just saying, me personally, until I see that we've come back down to this trend line, I don't feel comfortable getting calls. If we dropped here, I'd probably load pretty heavily on calls. Because look at that. It's such a reliable trend line. Ever since that drop we did back in September, this channel has held up. You know, with the exception of that amazing October run due to earnings. See, now why isn't this lined up right again? Peanut would have loved this, guys. Just having just as many issues of trading view this week as me. There we go. Yeah. So our window for the level of drop we're going to see, now is shrinking, and then the amount of drop we could see shrinking. So obviously this would have been a nicer profitable put. It's going to get less profitable over time because I don't see this breaking through the trend line. I just honestly don't until we have that big correction. That probably doesn't happen until we have 490 or 500 as the top. And again, right, every 2 years. Look at that, 2020, March. We have December 2018. We have, and I'm just so you know what I'm looking at, not necessarily big dips and candles. I'm looking at when the weekly RSI bottoms. And then we have, of course, January, February 2016. But you can see not every correction is equal. But also not every run-up is equal. Right? So look, from 2008 up here until 2015, we didn't really do much. So this correction wasn't as big, right, in 2016. But then you start to see a steeper slope. So then what happens for 2018 here? Wherever it went. Yeah, like that's a bigger drop. And then you see here, right out the gate, for like 2 months, we shot up 233 all the way up to 338. It's $100 in a 2 month period. You know, so that was also kind of all the warning too that a drop may be coming, and then boom, COVID. And then after that, though, correction, look at that. This has been the steepest climb yet. Look at this. Right? Kind of flat, but steady up. And then this is almost sky high. So I would think that this correction probably brings us about to like this 375, 393 area. Now, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, but I do think it's prudent to expect some kind of decent sized correction either in the spring or the summer. Not now. I'm not saying go cash, be worried. I mean, even risk has his market meter still at 9, right? So this is just planning for the future because we can make gains. We want to maintain those gains. All right. So what's Tesla doing? Nice. Cool. So guys, update. Look at that butterfly pattern completing out. See that? Bounced up, came back down here where that C point was going to be. And it may consolidate maybe for another bounce or two, possibly. But then ultimately, we're going to see the D point end up here at 1200. I unfortunately missed my entry when it dropped here while we were going over SPY, but it's okay. If it breaks this, I'll go in, or if it goes back here, I'll
Does
go
that
in.
work on today, or is that weekly?
So this is the 15-minute chart, so this is for an intraday pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you saw it on 4-hour here, actually on the 4-hour it's kind of forming too, right? Look at it, not as clear, so it could be a weekly pattern, you know, and if that's the case, I'm gonna get rid of this stupid blue thing. And if that's the case, we're gonna see it do something like this. Or like this, rather. So, I mean, the price ends up being the same, but if it's a butterfly forming on the 4 hour, that just means it's going to take longer to get there, right? Because 4 hour will, at this point, you start to use kind of as a weekly chart. So for anyone wondering, right, I use 15-minute. The way I interpret the time frames is, excuse me, as an intraday chart. 1 hour, depending on how early or late it's saying something happens, I can kind of use as a half day or full day to next day chart. So I'll see what maybe the rest of today, tomorrow, the day after may look like. 4 hour, like we said, weekly, daily I'd use for longer terms, like weeks. And then weeks I'd use for even longer than that, for like months. I don't generally use them monthly because if I'm playing something very long term where a monthly chart may be required, I'm just buying shares of it and waiting until it pops anyway, so I don't really care.
Okay.
So, but what's promising is, look at this too. Where my line's good, trend line. So look at this. This is a bull flag. Like Tesla's entire life is just bull flags. That's all it knows. Look at the bull flag break here, the one we drew last week. Broke out of the big bull flag after breaking out of this one, and now look at this. It's another bull flag. Tesla's just a beast. Just keeps flagging into another flag over and over. And this one being a 4 hour one means that this is going to pan out over the next week or so. Maybe this week even. Because on the hour, we're already trying to break out of it. So now that I've noticed that, right, we may not come down to this line because it may not be testing for a butterfly pattern on the longer time frames. What it may try to do is break out and then just retest the trend line here for the upper end of the bull flag. And then keep going. Again, just something to keep in mind. Eventually, all gaps have to be filled, or 90% of the time they do. So there's always a possibility of a drop back to this level for a retest. And you'll notice, guys, I'm repeating things that we go over throughout the day pretty often because people are coming and going. So I want to make sure that as many people as possible are hearing the analyses. Just bear with me. And AMD, we still haven't gotten any. We still haven't gotten any confirmation from AMD on which of these paths it's going to go. We likely won't until either this afternoon or possibly even tomorrow. But what I really care about is I'm just trying to see if we do.
It looks like we got about 36 people tuned in right now.
Or better yet, how awesome would it be?
And that's about what it averages. It averages anywhere between 30 to 40 people from what I've seen.
I don't see that as very likely, but possible. Anything's possible in the market.
And keep in mind, this is something we do every single day. This is a big perk of Ultra membership.
Flagging. I love it.
And the great part about this is you have a stock that you're interested in, you want to have some quick analysis done, you just pop in, super friendly environment, ask a question, you're going to get a quick answer.
I honestly hope you guys are adding these 240s or any other strikes you see because I'm really, like, this is a high confidence play. Again, right? Weekly, for anyone joining in new, we're in this triangle. We're about to break out. Look at that, that's beautiful. It starts forming all the way back in February 2020. Full year to form this. I mean, if a pattern takes a full year or even longer to form, that means the impact is going to be that much more pronounced versus if you see a 1 minute pattern break. So that's really great. And as we were saying, the MACD is flipping green and about to golden cross with the RSI curling up, and all this happening for the first time since May 2020, where it ran up about $100. And oh, it's almost like it's perfectly set up by God or something, because we also have earnings coming into this month and constant good news. So
Question on that chart. Because I'm pretty new to charting. That looks like a bear flag. It has the candle, the pole bearish. What that means is breaking. It would break down.
I'm glad you asked. So the bear flag already did break down. Look, the bear flag starts here at the pole. Right? So when it drops, the bear flag goes upward, and then look, it broke down. You see that? It already broke out of the flag and downwards.
Okay.
So yeah, we've already gone past that break. So this was more of a problem for people back in June. And you could see it went from like 256 all the way down to 185, right? Just because it's on the weekly. So any patterns on the weekly are going to have a way bigger impact. They're going to last longer.
All right. So for a bear flag, it would just be that channel from the pole to that channel that you have highlighted, but the full triangle would be the breaking out of it.
Exactly, right? So this pattern, and I didn't ignore it, I saw we completed it, so I didn't see any relevance in bringing it up. But you're right, there is a bear flag, but we broke out and it's gone now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's already played out. But it was nice because that bear flag and the way it fell out ended up forming a triangle. So it kind of worked out as a dip into a rip, right? So we dipped out, breaking down from the bear flag, formed this triangle, and a symmetrical triangle is a bullish indicator, and it breaks upwards. So can you guys see my OneNote that I just loaded over here? Did I load that screen for you guys?
I don't see it.
Okay, so what I'll do is, I think I can split which screen. Yep, there's a change windows button. Alright. I'll change back to this chart momentarily, but so if you look at the bear flag, and this is something I'm working on, I'm going to give you guys all a copy once I'm done. Right, but this is just resources like different chart patterns, right, with pictures and what they mean, trend lines versus support and resistance, what it means, how to analyze different candlestick patterns. I'm going to have some resources, different types of indicators I use, by no means a complete list, just things that I use and how to use them effectively. And then I'm going to give you guys some risk management stuff, right, position sizing, trading psychology.
And this is something that will be available to all Ultra members.
I'm not going to go too into depth right now because this is not a complete project. Once it's done, I'll do a presentation along with it. But just so you know, I'm going to refer to this a lot because that's where I'm keeping my notes for you guys too. All right. So
Burke, I like it.
just want to help you guys all bank. I want to also make sure that everybody's making money. We get premiums signing out for Ultra because more Ultras means more friends in here, right?
It does.
So bear flag, you see what I was talking about? Like, look at that, drop, and then see just like we were looking at, and then it fell down there. And what did it fall into though? So this is a symmetrical triangle pattern. See that where it's roughly equal on all sides? Doesn't that look familiar to you? Bear flag broke right into the triangle.
Yep.
So now at this point we'd be expecting it to break outward.
To go up as like what you have underneath, the chart you have underneath.
Exactly. And now we're going to switch the screen here back to... Alright. So, BA, threat 15, yeah. So, full flag here. This is great. Anyone that was following me yesterday when I did BA, remember how I was telling you these lines were being respected perfectly on the bull flag, and I was waiting for the bottom here to add more. So same thing. I'm waiting for the bull flag to bottom out, where we see that it's about to reverse and break out. And at that point, I'm going to add more. I've been adding, right? I'm not going to take new entry. When I posted, I added, but I'm scaling, and that's what I've been saying. So I'm scaling it because I want to make sure that we don't add in too soon, especially if there's consolidation. You want to make sure. Now, it doesn't look like there is, but the one thing we want to keep in mind is if it keeps ripping like this every day, because it's already done it yesterday, doing it today, eventually it's going to need a longer period of consolidation. It can't just go up like 5-10% every day. Eventually it has to cool off. So it's not going up with enough volatility where I think we necessarily have to expect a drop to cool off, but consolidation. Especially on the hourly here, we're hitting 87. It's getting a little bit hot. So it may be reasonable to expect that possibly tomorrow or the day after it may consolidate. And look, we got another butterfly here. So you guys are going to start seeing this everywhere now. See that? Butterfly pattern. So, that. See it? Now, a couple different things this could do. This could consolidate and maybe flag down here, right, into like a larger bull flag to test this area of support. Or if there's some kind of bad news, or let's just be honest, if the government just wants it to drop for some reason, we may just get some bad news that brings it down to the bottom level here to test it at 192. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think it's more likely that either we break this today, because it's already kind of breaking, or we drop down to the 205. So if we draw out the predictions here, so we're thinking either breakout up to this fib line, which would let us come test the trend line back again. And then from there, back up, right, to whatever next level resistance here would be. We haven't charted that out yet, because I'm more focused on this fib level first. Alternatively, it could come back down, test this level. And then bounce up from there to test this, and then
Just
come
a
back
quick
down.
question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry. Yep. The question was, you said you were getting in at 240 on the weeklies. Is that what I heard?
For 114. Yeah. So this is in the options only that I posted those 240s. That's what I got in on, and I'm still scaling in on those. So I haven't gotten my full position.
Okay.
So this is part of the position. This is part of the position management thing, guys, that I want everybody to be aware of. Right? Is scaling in. So it's term. If you're a new trader, that just means you're taking your position, the full position you want to ultimately have, slowly. So it may be something like, if you're doing shares, you may add 10 shares at $1, and then you see if it goes sideways for a couple days, maybe you add 10 more. If it dips, you add 10 more. And then maybe 50 is your ultimate goal, right? So then you see a big drop next day, you add 20 more, great, you're at your ultimate position. So as it went sideways and as it dropped, you didn't necessarily lose much money at all because you were averaging, right? You scaled in. And that's going to be a great strategy to use almost all the time. I mean, I should use it more than I do. But in this case, because I'm not necessarily sure, even in the bullish trend, which of these paths it's going to take. And I do know that no matter what, at all times, you can see all paths lead back to a retest at some point, right? So it just makes sense to wait for the retest. So it could be nice on initial breakout to get some. So that's probably what I'm going to do, because that's a good strategy in general on initial breakout, because you may have enough momentum where you don't see a retest for a while, or it may just keep going for today. So then maybe if that's the case, IV spikes up, so I sell the calls into that IV spike for profit, because then if it comes back to retest tomorrow, your IV is going to drop, and you're going to have theta burn too. So a lot of this is going to be played by ear, and that's why these calls are going to be so beneficial too. Is for anyone that's joining us for the first time, we're going to walk through the thinking. Why are we doing what we're doing, and what's going on? Because you can't predict to a T what a stock is going to do every second, or every minute, or even every day, honestly. So we're going to have strategies based on where it is going at the moment, but then we're also going to have contingency plans, right? So I do like to draw out the possible paths, because if you can see the possible paths, you're not just glued to watching what you want to see, you're glued to seeing everything that can happen. So it forces your mind to think of your exit plan or your contingency plan if it doesn't go the way you want. let's take a look at. So Nikola, AMC, and Beyond Meat are getting a lot of volume. So I know Beyond Meat said that they just had a deal with KFC where they're debuting their Beyond Fried Chicken. Right now it's red, so let's see if we can find a potential nice entry. So we'll bring out the fib retracement, right? At least for my charting. This is what I always start with. Whoops. And this is an easier one to chart. Look at that. For Beyond Meat. It's always at the same support line here, with the exception of, this weirdo. But there will always be outliers. So just remember too, when you draw your lines, whether it's Fibonacci, whether it's your trend, whether it's your support or resistance, the goal is not for every single point to touch. You're looking at what looks like the key point, right, the reversal point. So if I'm looking at this looks like a straight line of support. I'm not going to purposely bring this down to here because does that look like support? That just looks awkward, right? This is the only time this has ever touched there. Otherwise, it just always bounces here. So if you're new to charting, keep that in mind. It's not a perfect system. Not every point is going to touch. There will always be outlier candles. Guys, keep in mind, I know a lot of you are sending me DM questions. If you DM me questions, it's going to be a little tougher for me to get back because I have to click through multiple screens. It is preferable, please, to ask in Ultra Chat because also it may be a question that someone else listening in has, so everybody could benefit. So, Tigger, I'm going to answer you, but I just wanted to point that out because I appreciate that you put it in the chat instead of DMing. Alright, so I'll go back to Beyond in a minute because I want to address your question. Or Tigger already left the call. Okay. So he's asking, will it drop? Okay. So, like we said for BA, he's asking for BA if he thinks it'll drop a bit at lunch for a better position. Right? So since he left, he didn't hear anything I said about scaling in on the bull flag. Tigger, say, oh, you are in here. Perfect. Cool. Thank you so much for saving me time typing. Yes, so we were just talking about the bull flag that BA is in, and it's dropping a little bit within channel though, right? So it's what I'm calling a bullish drop. So it could potentially come down to test the 215 area, but it may not because it may decide it's going to break out sooner. Like yesterday with the bull flag we had here, it did go all the way to the bottom. Just the wick did, and then broke out midway through. So yeah, we are going to short-term see some drops, but not heavily. I would say about, what is that, 215.75 area would be about the worst case I'm seeing for today, at least. But if you're still in the call later today, I will also, as we go on, be reviewing it more. So if it looks like it's not getting down there and it's going to pull what it did in the flag yesterday and go up early, I'll announce it. And I'm going to keep announcing every time I add more into my scale in too. Okay, so
Roll back, it's continuing down if anyone has puts.
Roku's starting to become, like Upstart, one of those primarily put plays. Dot view, Upstart. What's that, buddy?
I was just curious, did anybody end up picking up any AMD puts? I know you guys were talking about them earlier.
I wasn't talking about puts. Not that it's a bad idea for short term because it's dropping, but I really don't like to play these micro trends or if something looks like it's just going to be a scalp because I think it's too easy for a lot of people to miss the exit. And just, from my experience, if we try to go into a scalp together, I think a lot of us more experienced people will probably get some profit, and I think some of the less experienced people or the people that are at work and can't check all the time are going to lose money. So Dumain, I'm going to be spending a lot more time on these calls, really focusing on trades that you could hold either for a majority of the day or overnight.
like the for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm gonna mix some scalps in too, you know, don't get me wrong, it just won't be primary focus, because I know right now Taylor and Leith are kind of already doing that with their day trades, so I want to give you guys some other options of longer trades you can do, along with day trades.
I like it. Yeah, I actually did hop into a few AMD puts, nothing crazy. I grabbed some 135s for Friday. We're up 106%.
Yeah, I mean, short term, I think we're gonna see 130, 370 or so, but I don't know that necessarily that's gonna be all the way until Friday. We may have like a really bad day tomorrow, the way this is looking, and then a sharp rebound the day after. So I was just actually telling folks too, if you have your 150s for 1.7, I'd probably try to make them 114 to be on the safe side. Because it's going to make the move up, right? It's telling us it will in the pattern, but the pattern is also telling us that it's got to have a dip before it can rip.
Thanks, bro.
No problem. Alright, so for Beyond, it's got that volume in there. So I really like that. We are right on this support. No matter how low it goes, I mean, it may go down a few bucks, peak out here and there, but for the most part, it's resting on this fib line. So what's our indicators telling us? Daily, it's showing, it looks like it's just kind of consolidating. So I'm seeing that it looks like on the 3rd it bottomed, and now it's been consolidating, so it looks like it's going to want to move up. That's more of a macro trend though, so let's see what it's been doing. So on the hourly, so we'll plot some resistance and support lines, because this is going to be a play that I think probably in about a week we find a good entry, but while it's consolidating, you don't want to go in, because why burn your premium on theta? Now if you see the burn coming, why let that happen on purpose? Kind of. Is that star? It's coming in low.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the rule here, but hold on.
Okay, for anyone newly joining, we're plotting our support and resistance lines, and just the way that I do, using the hourly to get some stronger midterm levels, as I think the fib lines work well enough for long-term levels.
Now.
Ooh, yeah, a lot louder and better.
Okay. I'm in the car. Just connected to my Wi-Fi, but so I'm looking at Merck, right? I have these $80 14 or 15 Mercs. So when do you think we're gonna get to 80 today?
So this is one of our Ultra members, Star, that's asking a question right now.
And should I sell my $70?
So I'm going to give you a disclaimer that I can't necessarily give you financial advice, but what I would do...
But this is like... Okay, yeah. What would you do?
So we have since you're in your car, I imagine you can't see the screen, but we have a Fibonacci line right at 79.83 for Merck, and it's headed up there, right? So what I would do on this, if I still had my 80s, is watch for what it does as it gets at 780 to, I'd say about, or I'm sorry, 79.80 to about 80 area, and see if it rejects on the 15, if you have any way to look at a chart. If it does, then I would probably sell.
Well, I see this double top right now, and that's scaring me. But this is not this 1 minute. I need to go to the 15.
I mean, a 1 minute double top doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. If you look at the 15, look at Merck's candles, it's been flying. Alright, so
I've been scalping today. That's the only reason it's on 1 minute.
Gotcha. I feel pretty confident that fib line's going to get tested. Just check for what to do there. If it breaks, then you got a lot more room. So you might want to ride it. But if it looks like it's struggling, even if it doesn't necessarily reject, but it looks like it's struggling and maybe it's going sideways for a little bit there, then I would expect it to probably reject back down to retest support at about 77.40, to 77.50. And personally, I'd probably sell at this fib line, and then if it breaks out, I'd just rebuy, or if it doesn't, I'd just rebuy back at support. I'm just saying that from a scalp point of view. If you're not a scalp,
I'm gonna go to your screen because I have my screen up with my fib. I want to see what yours looks like.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's how different it looks.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
Okay. I mean, it's so hard to see these levels. 79, 70. I'm trying to compare them. 78.6.
So my fib lines are drawn on the daily. Let me switch over to you. The candle's blocking it. But it's 79.83. I know it's hard to see from the candle top.
Close. Close to what I had.
So, and you can see, since you're looking at the screen now, that look how many times it's bounced here, right, at its peak. So this is a pretty strong level. Likes to play with it a lot. So it's going to test it.
I
It's
knew
headed
it
right
was
for
going to
it.
make that shoulder, that head and shoulder. That's why I haven't sold. I knew it was getting complete with this.
So if you're scalping, what I would do as a scalp is I would sell at this resistance here. If it breaks, I'd buy back. And if it doesn't,
This one I have not. This one I have not been scalping. But somebody just said that I could sell it and get back in. I mean, if it retests that line, potentially get back in and take at least maybe sell two of them. Because I have four $75 contracts.
Yeah, so scale out. Perfect example. We were talking about scalings before, everybody. So scale out would be something that could help our friend Star here. So, meaning once we get to that resistance, you might want to scale some out. If it breaks, then you just keep riding it, and maybe at the next, let's see, where's the next main level here? Looks like right here at about 82, right? Or 82.10. And so probably at that point, try to ride it up to, like ride it up to about 82, and then see if that holds. If it looks like it's struggling, maybe scale out more, and then add back as a retest at the fib line of 79. Or if that breaks, keep going, keep scaling out. And Star, I'm not picking on you. You probably know what scale out means. I just want to make sure anyone else listening does too.
No, you're awesome for doing that. You are amazing. You should be a teacher.
Thanks, guys. As long as you make money, I'm happy.
No, because you think about those little things like that. It's awesome.
Cool. But yeah, does that answer your question, or?
Like asking these little questions, but I had to ask them at one point when I was a beginner. We all do, no question is stupid. I always say that.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm requesting to not ask me DM questions unless it's personal and you don't want anyone to know. But if it's just about general charting or stocks, guys, I am going to request ask it in chat, because there may be someone listening that has that question, just doesn't feel comfortable asking. It helps everybody.
Sure does.
So, but yes, I also did go in on ARC calls too, but I'm not sure if I'm going to hold overnight. I went in on ADC just for
Did you?
121.
I have 15 of those. The 80s.
Yeah, so D-Man, remember we talked about how BA is going to have to do a retest, right? When it drops to about 215, right where it is. That's what we were saying. So there's nothing to worry about. It's doing exactly what we planned for. It's doing exactly what we wanted it to do. It's dropping within a bull flag pattern. This kind of drop, this is not the kind of drop you worry about. This is the kind of drop where you go, oh, let me dip buy. Right? Because this doesn't say falling knife. This doesn't say run is done. This says, hey, we're setting up. We're getting ready for another bull flag breakout here.
paper per question talking about that with the VA 225 call at strike price 1.7. So we did around this time.
To add or picking up new? Did you already have an entry?
Yeah. I picked up, but I don't know if I should, still consider if I should scale in a little more.
I'm still adding. I can tell you that. I'm adding both the 225s for the 7th, and I'm still adding 240s for the 14th. I was just waiting on us to, verify a drop. And up, look at that. We bounced right off the trend line. I don't know if you got. It's easier to see on the 1 minute. Look at that.
Yeah, I added way too soon, Burke, but I'm still doing all right.
Yeah, way too soon too.
I still think it's going to pull out. I mean, like Burke said, I think 225s are going to pay. I don't know if it'll get to 225 or not, but I added way too soon trying to average down, and it didn't do any good.
Well, I mean, it's still going to break out, right? Just look at yesterday as an example. We had the same thing happen yesterday. See that flag, and then we broke out. Look how much it ran all the way. So this isn't something to be worried about. Fine. Did you maybe add a little too soon? Maybe up here? Okay. But once that flag breaks, you're still going to profit, and you still have the opportunity to average down if you left some powder and scaled in like I advised.
Yeah, I do.
Because can't tell you guys how to trade, but here's the information.
Yeah, you've been calling BA so well. I woke up, saw that alert, and then added some for the 14. I'll probably add a few more. They about just like 4 or 5.
Yeah, and honestly, scaling in for BA is just me optimizing. If you guys don't have the time to watch it to scale in, and you just want to buy at like a good point, right around here where I'm scaling in more, great point to add more. And then maybe just get your full position, because I feel relatively safe here. If you don't, and you do have the time to watch it though, I still recommend scaling, because it's always safer. That being said, we looked at this weekly. I still feel like this is a very strong play for the month, and I think potentially this could be the highest paying play for the month, because that weekly is ridiculous. And last time that weekly did this, it ran for a full year. So I'm also kind of trying to figure out where it looks like maybe it consolidates for a while, and then try to add a long-term position there, like maybe 2023 calls. May not pay out as much as I wanted to, but it just runs for a year potentially, like it did last time. Or we may do week to week. I'm still probably gonna all month with you guys talk about a few days out and week to week plays on BA, but I'm still on the fence. We may want to do some longer term ones.
Yeah, and I think I got it for $30 a contract. So it's low risk for. You're saying it can run for a while. It's pretty low risk for a high reward.
Yeah. I mean, that weekly is giving us the go ahead, so I'm actually adding more now too. So bear with me. So I have my the account I'm managing for my parents and my fiance on my browser, so I have to use my phone for my own. Our loved ones always get the better things, right guys? Unfortunately. Okay. So let's average down on here.
Yeah, I was gonna treat myself to the new Galaxy phone, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. But I wasn't gonna spend $1,800 on the phone. No shot.
If you trade a lot, a nice MacBook and a nice phone is a good. I would even take business investment, because if you go traveling, you could trade anywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Come on, BA.
I actually just purchased a Samsung Tab. I think the Tab 7 or Tab 8. So far it's been really nice to me. Yeah, I'm a Samsung guy, unfortunately or fortunately. So
yeah, I am too. I had an iPhone.
Hey, it's nothing unfortunate. If you're happy with it, who cares what other people think?
Oh my god, I get so much shit. Oh, you have a Galaxy?
You have no idea I get so much shit too.
Hey, I'm not a Samsung person at all, but you know what? You do you. Whatever works for you.
Right? Computer. I can make it like my own. You should see how different. You could never do this on an iPhone. It has the stuff I have on here.
And I feel so much judgment about I feel so much other judgment by college girls. They'll be like, "Oh, you have a Samsung? You don't have an iPhone?" It's so terrible. So bad.
My son loves his iPhone. He's 19.
Yeah, I'm 22, and I just, I can't stand it. I had an X, and it was just the battery life was so horrible. But I don't know how the new ones are.
Yeah, the battery life's not great, but I didn't really like the processing power on the Samsung. That was my only complaint. They seem to lag out a lot for me, and the Apple just seems to, like iPhone.
They want you to buy the Ultras.
Yeah, the older models definitely lag. I will say that.
No, I mean, I got this
older.
new, and after only a year, it started lagging. I mean, at least with my iPhone, it gives me
They
like
do
3
that.
years.
They slow it down so you'll buy the new
Yeah,
one.
they want you to get the new shit.
For real, that's why I stopped hooking with them.
I still have a Samsung 8 Plus, I believe, and I'm finally upgrading to 21 or 20.
Yeah, I got the smallest model 21, and that was only like $700, and it's really good so far. So,
Hoping mine's coming in the mail within the next week or two. They also gave me a free pair of Galaxy Buds on a promotion they had in December. So.
Oh yeah, did you do the trade-in thing?
Yeah. Like 8 for the 20, and then it came with a free pair of earbuds for like $500. So I definitely jumped on it.
Ew. Yeah, I was gonna do that, and then I dropped my other Samsung, and it just completely, died.
Oh man.
With no good.
Alright, so, guys, for anyone that had gone in on my AMC swing play, when I notified it about 2 weeks ago, so right now, AMC is still finishing up its drops. Now, is that scary? Not really, because what's happening is I can see a clear fib line here at 1873. This is absolutely gonna run up back to at least 30. The timing, that's gonna be the tricky part. But if this goes down to 1873, I'm considering that a massive dip buy opportunity, because 1873 to, alright, so it would be about 29, not 30. But that's about, $10. So on calls, depending on the strike you get, that could be 500 to 1,000% when they pay. If you get here though. If you already bought, hang in there, right? We still have support down here, and I'm still feeling pretty bullish on it, because this is looking very heavily to me like the same shakeout that the meme stocks are getting, because it's following the same pattern.
Just going to turn this down for a second. I'm going to note that it is 11:43 a.m. Eastern time right now, for anybody who's interested.
I'm not worried because the reasons that don't apply to you. The way you hedge or protect yourself. So.
And of course, it's January 5th, 2022.
Our big play. We're doing a sideways breakout. So now that we're actually officially out of this downtrend, right? So that's really the greater thing that this breakout is telling us. When we come out of this falling wedge, this means that we're no longer in a downtrend. But doesn't necessarily mean uptrend either, it's sideways. Which is fine, because this confirms, if nothing else, I think everyone can agree that we found a bottom. We broke downtrend, sideways, definitely found bottom. And then of course, if you look at it in a technical way too, we have the fib line at 238, and I swear I didn't draw this until this was like up here. So I didn't know it was gonna go perfectly, but look at that. The low, if you guys can see where it says low on the top of my chart, on this candle, it's 238 on the dot. So we got this bottom level pretty exact. Now we're just waiting on news, which we should be getting, since Benzinga tweeted yesterday that they're gonna have the CEO on for an interview, and then we're still waiting on that ad riser PR sometime this week. And then of course the Tide spin-off in the next couple weeks. Alright, AMD, how we doing? Okay, so AMD's making its way down, like we said. And look at Tesla. Alright, so Tesla too, like we said, it's going to come back to test this area of support. And yeah, so we've got this bull flag here, but honestly, more than a bull flag, this is looking to me like the butterfly we talked about. So it may not follow a standard bull flag because it may do, the X, the A, or B, our C, and then our D. So either it does that or does that. Now, this actually kind of works too with the bull flag, because to go to point B, it would have to break out, and then point C here is a retest of the bull flag. So there you go. Fibonacci tools, guys. They work. It just tells you exactly what we would want it to do anyway. So what I would like to do is honestly buy a little on the breakout, and this is how it scale this. Some Tesla calls that we were talking about on this breakout. So I think we probably see it today, since it is on the 15 as well. And then from there, I probably want to buy a little more once it comes for the retest. So I maybe want to get quarter my position. If I'm buying more than one, some people might be buying one, and then buy another quarter when it retests, another quarter at the break of next resistance, and then another quarter at retest to that, and then by that point I should be able to start scaling out the first quarter I got. So it's a constant self-feeding play. If you don't have as large an account, and maybe you're only getting one, what I would do is probably make sure you can confirm a bounce here at, let me give you guys an accurate number here. I have this at, so at 1142. Maybe even, because it slightly peaks out, so potentially maybe even 1135, but I don't think so. If it breaks, then yeah, 1130. But 1142 is likely a great spot to add. From there, if it holds like we're thinking, you're going to see a test up here in this sloping trend line. So it's going to be kind of hard to gauge right when that's going to be, because it's a slope. Depends on which candle. So that could be anywhere between 1165 and, depending on when, could be even 1145. So if you're staying on the call though, I'll definitely be constantly checking, and I can alert anyone that can't look. You may miss it by a minute or two, but otherwise I'm sure we'll catch it quick enough. Alright, so once it tests this,
Alright guys, we're going to cut the video short here. I've got an appointment. I've got to go drop my truck off to go get something looked at. So hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.